Travel photography looks like total freedom. The mountains, the fjords, the empty roads, the quiet mornings, the beautiful lighting. But what you don't see is the thousands of miles of driving, the rain that you can't avoid, the flat light that you have to work with, and the locations that you have to photograph even when you don't want to. I'm Chris, and over the past 4 years, I've been writing, photographing, and self-publishing travel guides for people with camper vans and motorhomes. I've created 9 different travel guides across 3 different countries, as well as 3 photography books. And over the last year alone, I spent 4.5 months traveling across Norway and the UK, photographing different locations for the travel guides. And quite early along the journey, I noticed one thing that a lot of travel photographers just do not talk about, and that is that travel photography is hard. So in this video, I wanted to discuss the good and the bad sides of travel photography and the things that I've realized over the last 4 years that I really didn't know when I was getting into this as a career. Let's start with the obvious truth, and that is that you get to visit some incredible places, and that is true. Last year, I spent nearly 3 months in Norway in my camper van, traveling around on my motorhome, and I spent about a month in Denmark, and then I spent about a month and a half across the year in the Scottish Highlands, which for me, them locations are an absolute dream. They're the type of places I would love to visit and spend time, and I do. So I am very lucky in that aspect. But one thing that a lot of people do forget is that you're not there just for a holiday. It's work. So when it comes to these trips, I have a fairly strict road trip schedule. Say in Norway, I had to fit it in around holidays, and because of the 90 days and every 180, I had to limit it to 3 month maximum, and that included Denmark as well. So I had a day-by-day itinerary, which might include up to like 6 or 7 locations. And within them locations, you've got a range of different types of things to photograph. Some of them are very easy. It could just be a viewpoint that you have to get out, take a photograph, move on to the next one. Another one could be something specific in a town. So I have to park up, I have to find a place, I have to go and have a look at it, photograph it, and then move on to the next place as well. And with that, there comes quite a few different difficulties of things that I never really expected beforehand. So first and foremost, light, weather. I ain't got any choice. I've just got to get on with it and photograph the place and move on. And the type of place that it is. So the probably best example I can give you is, say for example, you plan to go out for some food with the missus to somewhere like the Metro Centre near where I live. I'd choose to go there because there's some nice food locations, but inevitably when I get there, she wants to go in this shop, she wants to go in that shop, we need to pick this up, we need to pick that up. Then I get to do the thing I want to do, and then on the way back, she needs to go here, there, and somewhere else as well. So from this full trip, there's one thing that I really want to do, and the rest of them are just stuff that I've got to get done. Travel photography is a lot like that. I love things with human stuff in it as well as cool landscapes. So when I'm photographing somewhere in Norway that has all of them things, like Jorpeland, I loved it there. It's like a sort of island thing. Great, beautiful place. A lot of man-made stuff, a lot of beautiful nature, all at the same time. Great. But then there might be somewhere else in Scotland where I might have to go and photograph a museum. I hate museums, but I still have to go and I still have to photograph it. And a lot of places are a little bit like that. If it's like a huge, beautiful vista, I love looking at places like that, but I really just didn't like photographing them because it's the same as every other person's photograph that's ever walked there, and whoever happened to get the nicest light has the most beautiful photograph. And that's one of the biggest things that I'd never quite realized. I just thought you go to these locations, you take these beautiful photos, and you move on. But not all locations are created equal, and my opinion of a beautiful location and yours are going to be very different. Weather and time are the next thing, which I did touch on in the last point. But I suppose they kind of fall under the same bracket because they're both 2 things that you can't really control. So my trip to Norway itself was about 7,000 miles in total, and I had a strict schedule. And on top of that, the route that I travel in Norway wasn't just up and back down the same route. It was a circular route, which meant there was certain places where I couldn't see anything, and I had to photograph it at some point where I had to change my plans slightly. But generally speaking, you don't have that luxury. If, for example, I've got 7 or 8 stops that day, one of them happens to be a beach, but it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and ideally sunset would be the best one for that. It's tough. I ain't really got that choice. Or if it's a beach and it's raining, not the type of conditions you really want to photograph that kind of thing in, for the most part, you just have to get the photo as best you can and move on to the next place. There's not a lot you can do. You can't control the weather. It's something that I suppose a lot of photographers who's ever done any road trips at all or city breaks will have experienced, because this happens quite regularly. Or even if you've done a bit of hiking, you think, oh, we're going to go to the top of this mountain. I cannot wait to see what it looks like from up there. You get up the top and you cannot see now because it's cloudy. You just have to get on with it. That's the same. Travel photography is very similar to that. You just have to, unfortunately, play the hand that you've been dealt. The next topic is something that I never thought I'd really have to talk about, because I didn't think it was going to be a thing. So for me, since I first got my camera in 2011, photography has been like just eye-opening. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite thing I've ever started doing. I love it. It's a brilliant hobby. It helps us see the world in a way that I've never seen it before. It's a community, despite, I suppose, I've never really been out doing photography with anyone bar just myself, maybe it's more than once or twice, and I would love to do more of that, but it's just been a dream of mine to do this full time. But one thing that I didn't consider is when you're having to photograph things that you really don't want to have to photograph in a way that you're not that keen on photographing for work, you can just completely disregard it as a hobby because you're just sick of it. And I really didn't want to get to that point. I would rather quit doing it professionally and have it as a hobby that I love than do it professionally and never want to do it personally ever again, because capturing personal stuff and personal work to me is miles more important than just doing it for work. So how I coped with this, and it could help you if you're suffering a similar sort of thing, is just to make sure that I always had a personal project I was working on. Now, I will preface this that I am extremely lucky, because on my other channel I have got a lot of loyal subscribers who will support a lot of projects that I do. Now, I've brought out a photography book. I've done 3 of them now, and this one was called The Road Looked Like This, and it was me trying to sort of document Norway from the sort of point of view of me traveling, and that was bits of the van, views from the windows of the van, some beautiful viewpoints, some of my favourite photos that didn't make the guide, the ones with the spray painted buildings on, with the lampposts, with the square shots of buildings, with bins, with bridges, whatever it might be, the stuff that didn't make the guide that I really wanted to take personally, because what I wanted to do is make sure that on a night time, when I'd finished my professional stuff, my work, I would pick my camera back up and head out and go for a walk and take some photographs, because I love it. I didn't want to get to a point where I just didn't want to touch my camera again. So that's what I done. So that might help you. It might not. You might not be in this position, but it is worth noting. Always make sure you've got something personal that you're passionate about to just push away the burnout, I suppose. Yeah, it's what it is. Just be careful of it, because it is a thing. So having such a variation in subjects and such uncertainty of conditions and the location, and you can only do so much scouting online. One of the biggest problems that I found over the years, and I've had this for a very long time before I even done travel photography, but it was magnified a lot with travel photography, is just the constant gear rotation, just a gear treadmill where it's always another camera, always another lens. Maybe if I had this, maybe if I had that, maybe if I carry this, maybe if I carry that, I'll be better equipped to capture whatever it is. And there's a few problems with that, but the first one is it's expensive. Like carrying all of this stuff and having all of this gear for every possible scenario, it is expensive. It's time consuming. You just procrastinate watching videos of people reviewing stuff that are not even in the same example or the same profession as you, but you see their opinion, you think, oh, well, I must need that. Look at how sharp that photograph is of this, or how beautiful that is of that. And you do something completely different, but feel like you can't do your job without whatever it is that they've got. So I would be traveling around with a 24-70 2.8 G Master 2, pretty much on the camera at all times. A 70-200 in my bag, 17-28mm or 29mm Tamron in my bag, a 35 prime, an 85 prime, and a Mavic Pro drone all the time for everything. And it was ridiculous. I didn't need most of it. I don't like using zoom lenses, if I'm honest. And all of my personal work at the time was shot on a 40mm Sony Pancake lens. Now, the 40mm focal length is probably my favorite. I always use 35 or 50. 40 will be perfect for most things. But at the time, it was just a little bit ridiculous carrying all of that. And most Instagram like banger shots that you see for travel photography, which when you start this kind of stuff, you're trying to emulate, it's generally shot at about 70 mil. Maybe it's 200 mil with like a lot of compression, and it makes everything look incredible. It looks dramatic. It looks beautiful, and it looks great. But what I started to think is, which is another reason I don't use the drone a lot either, is that's just not what it looks like when you're there. You see these photos and you're like, wow, but it doesn't look like that. That's how you sort of create it, and that's fine. Like, I love that kind of stuff. But I thought, well, actually, I'm making travel guides and I want it to look like it looks for the people that's going to get there. I don't want it to be like, oh, look at this. You get there and you're like, oh, well, I can only see it like this if I've got a drone or if I'm a bird. That's no good. And I chased this kind of thing for a long time. But instead now, I've changed completely how I approach it. So for about 18 months, I've stuck exclusively to my Leica. The Leica system obviously isn't cheap, not at all. It's a M11 that I use, and I pretty much always use I've got a Sumilux M steel rim reissue f1.4, which I use pretty much 100% of the time now since I bought it. Compared to my first trip where I carried all of that sort of stuff, 24, 70, 70, 200, loads of primes, ultra wide, drone, the rest of it. This time, I took me M11 with me 35mm colour Scopa Voigtlander lens at first. I took about 90% of the images with that. I took 3 photographs with a 28mm lens, just purely because I needed to pan out stitch together because I couldn't get the mountains in, I was too close. And then I took a 50mm lens, which I took maybe 10% of the images, because sometimes you need to show off the scale of something that's much further away. That's when maybe something like a 70mm or something would have been handy. But the 50 worked fine. So this time, now I'm happy with the gear. That's all I took. That's all I needed. And you work around that. Because if you go into like a supermarket and you want something like toothpaste, you just think it's just toothpaste. And you get in, there's a full aisle and you're like, I cannot decide what toothpaste to get. I didn't know there was this many choices. That's kind of how I feel a little bit with this 24-70, 70-200, 17-28mm, a drone. I'm like, well, I don't know what to take. So the gear treadmill is a thing. It's a problem. I think it's a form of procrastination as well, because we feel like we can't create unless we've got all of these things. Having less and using the things that you've got more, for me, is kind of set us free a lot more in these sort of examples. And finally, I would say the biggest thing that I really didn't think was going to be a problem, which really has been a problem up until the last year and a bit, is it's very, very difficult to find your style when you're doing travel photography all the time. And the reason I think it's so difficult is because you photograph in so many different things, in so many different lighting conditions, in so many different places, for so many different purposes all the time. And it's hard to find the things that you like photographing. I suppose to a degree, I did find my style and the things that I like more through traveling, but not actually when I was traveling. So when I was traveling, I would photograph all these things, and I would come home and I would photograph normal stuff not far from home. And I realized how much I enjoyed that more than the traveling, photographing the dramatic, beautiful places. So that kind of did help us find my style, but not by traveling. It helped us realize that I was better and I enjoyed it more when I wasn't on a big travel shoot, because again, big grand vistas, honeypot locations, I got no interest in photographing them. You'll very rarely see me take my camera out and take a photograph of one of them unless I specifically have to. It's just not my thing. If you ever bump into me at a beautiful viewpoint like that, chances are the camera's hanging around my neck and I'll just enjoy it with my eyes. I'll let everyone else take the photographs with the phones and whatever else. Just not my thing. I will sometimes snap a photo if I've got my little point and shoot film camera though, because it's a tourist photo and I like that. But I'm not so bothered about them kind of things. Now, if you see me on, I don't know, somewhere like the Isle of Arran, you will see us taking photographs of like a bin or a lamppost or, I don't know, some buoys in the water or whatever. Not boys like kids, as in buoys, boys, however you pronounce them. Probably didn't sound great that. But yeah, that's my thing. And I found that not by traveling, but by forcing myself to photograph things closer to home, forcing myself to photograph the everyday thing. I find it very difficult to find my style when I find myself in such different locations, completely contrasting all the time. And it's good for some things. It does broaden your horizons a little bit and give you a lot more experience of trying to get different things in different conditions, in different places. And you can't just slip into the same habits. But I find it very difficult to find a consistent style of things that I enjoy shooting when I'm traveling for this kind of purpose. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope some of this might help. I hope some of it might also put into perspective what travel photography is like, because it is a dream job and it's also not all at the same time. And it might sound like this video has just been one big contradiction. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I thought it was a topic worth discussing. If it's something that you've considered, if it's something that you've done, if it's something that you'd love to do, let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.